10 books, 10 musicals. Hello, people of Earth and beyond. If you're new to my channel, my name is Shannon, and a warm welcome to all my Trafalmadorian friends out there. No book review today. Instead, I'm playing a little game. So let me try to explain a little bit what I'm doing and where this comes from. If you go on YouTube and you search for Harry Potter videos, eventually you're probably going to find some where people put clips of musicals or clips like songs from Disney movies to different clips of Harry Potter, and it's like the characters are singing that song. And I was really into those kind of videos for a while. I think that was way back when I was in middle school, but I still really enjoy the idea, and eventually watching those inspired me to just, whenever I listened to a musical, kind of think about whatever book I was reading at the time and try to imagine those characters performing the musical. So that's what this is. I am casting book characters in a musical. It's just something that I find incredibly entertaining, and it's always really interesting to me to think about who would play which part, because you have to look at their personalities, you have to look at the role they play in the story they were written for and the story of the play. So I have a couple rules for this, and basically that's going to be that personality should trump, like the personality of the character should align with the personality of the role they're playing in the musical. And if personalities don't match, I'll kind of look at the role they play in the story, like if they're a mentor character or if they have similarities to the role in the musical, like, I don't know, being an orphan or something like that. I have a bowl of books or book series and a bowl of musicals, and I'm basically just going to choose one from each, pair them up, and talk about who I think should play each role in each musical. Most of these are going to be fantasy, because that's my genre. Going. Our first, Magnus Chase in Hadestown. Really quickly, I just want to say that I do have Magnus Chase, Percy Jackson, and Heroes of Olympus in here as separate series. Okay. This one's gonna be kind of hard. I think that Magnus has to be Orpheus, and that immediately makes me want to put Alex as Eurydice. I think that Sam might possibly be more of a Eurydice character, but maybe not. I think that Sam can probably play, what's her name? Persephone. Yeah, Sam can be Persephone. And that way Alex can be Eurydice. A very spunky Eurydice. And, okay. My immediate instinct is that Loki should be Hades. However, if Sam is Persephone, that's a little weird. But if we're going to say for the moment that these characters are actors in a play, I'm going to say it's fine. It's based on their personalities. Loki would be Hades and Sam would be Persephone. And I don't really know who Hermes would be. I think that Blitzen might be a good Hermes. And everyone else, I don't really know. Those are pretty much the four main characters of Hadestown. So, yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. For one night only, the cast of Aurora Rising in The Phantom of the Opera. My initial instinct, I don't really know why, is that Ari should be Meg. She just seems like a Meg kind of character to me. Um, and I think the only other one that fits super well is Scarlet should be Carlotta. Because she's a little bit of a diva. I feel like Cal might be a good Phantom just because he has that same outcast kind of characteristic that the Phantom has. And other than that, I really don't know. Tyler should probably be, oh, what's his name? Raoul. Um, just, it's just, they've both got that really gallant quality to their characters. Um, the they're both kind of the knight in shining armor type of character. Um, but I have no idea who would be Christine, honestly. So, I don't know. I'll leave that one up to the audience. I think the four would be fine. I guess, what's her face? Kat could be Christine. She'd be a very fiery Christine, a lot more fiery than Christine in the actual play. And I don't know. I think if Kat were Christine, a lot about the play would be different. I don't think she would stand for being kidnapped, but it's really funny to me to imagine her as Christine, so I'm gonna cast her as Christine. Okay, I'm experimenting with this one. We're going to do Cinder in Dear Evan Hansen. So if you are familiar with my channel and have seen any of my recent videos, you may know that I read Cinder recently and I wasn't overly impressed with it, and I was kind of wondering why I hear so many people talk about the Lunar Chronicles so much. And I haven't read the rest of the Lunar Chronicles. However, I'm gonna try to cast Cinder in Dear Evan Hansen. We're just gonna try it out, see how it goes. As weird as this may seem, I think Cinder is more of a Connor Murphy character than an Evan Hansen character. I try to cast the main character of the book as the main character in the musical, but I'm not sure it works here. That being said, I don't really think that there is an Evan Hansen character in Cinder. I think that Kai could easily be Zoe, but I just... There's not really... The whole thing about Evan Hansen is how socially awkward he is. And there isn't really a character in Cinder that's like that. Okay, I think I'm going to change my answer a bit. I think that Cinder could potentially be Evan Hansen, and in that case, I think Peony would be Connor Murphy. And that's not going to be a perfect casting, but that's probably the best that I can do with this one. Alright, the cast of Heroes of Olympus for one night only, starring in The Lightning Thief the Musical. Okay, for you Percy Jackson fans out there, yes, there is a musical of The Lightning Thief, and it is freaking awesome, so go check it out. But I'm not going to do Heroes of Olympus for this musical because that's just a little too easy. So we're gonna pick a different one, but I'm glad that happened. Okay, they're going to be performing in Into the Woods. And if I pull The Lightning Thief the Musical for Percy Jackson, I'm going to die. Alright, so Heroes of Olympus in Into the Woods. I want to focus on the characters that are part of Heroes of Olympus, but not part of Percy Jackson. So I think that means that Jason has to be the baker. And I think that also means that Piper has to be the baker's wife. Leo would be Jack. That I'm certain about. Others I'm deliberating. Actually, no. I'm changing my answer. Okay. Starting over. Frank would be the baker. His personality matches the baker the best. Hazel can be the baker's wife. I'm good with that. What's her face? Piper is gonna be Cinderella. And that's kind of just because she's Aphrodite's daughter, and the whole scene in the Heroes of Olympus book, The Lost Hero, when she gets claimed, like that's a very Cinderella-esque thing. Leo is still Jack. I think that Percy and Jason are gonna end up being the princes. Which is fine. Like, that makes me sad because if you haven't seen Into the Woods, spoilers, but the princes are both awful. So it makes me so sad to think of Jason and Percy being the princes, because Percy and Jason, but Percy especially, they're both great. And then Annabeth, I think Annabeth would make a really good Little Red Riding Hood. And that leaves Nico to be the witch, which I can't believe I didn't realize this before, but that's actually perfect because, you know, I'm not good, I'm not nice, I'm just right. And that's kind of how Nico sees himself, not really good or bad, and yeah. You may have to just bear with some of my singing through this, because, you know, musicals. Alright, so the characters of the Bartimaeus trilogy for one night only in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I should really be talking more about the plot of each of these musicals, just in case you haven't seen them yet. I specifically picked ones that are amazing, by the way. So, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, I feel like is not a super well-known, Dreamcoat, is not a super well-known musical. It's based on the biblical story of Joseph, who could interpret dreams. Okay, I got this. So, Nathaniel would be, what's his face? Joseph. I can't think of anybody's name. Okay, so Nathaniel would be Joseph, and actually Bartimaeus would be the narrator, and you better bet that he would be the best darn narrator that show has ever seen. Simon Lovelace would be Potiphar, and what's his name? Rupert Devereux would be the Pharaoh. Hey, that rhymes. I want to find a role for Kitty, but I don't really know who she would be. And Jane Farrar would be Potiphar's wife, which, if you've seen the play, you know the significance of that. She is the Mariah Reynolds of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Thing is, there aren't really enough characters in the Bartimaeus to play the 12 brothers. And I don't know who Jacob would be. I want to say Arthur Underwood, just because he's a parental figure to Nathaniel, except that he's a really bad parental figure. And Nathaniel would definitely not be his most beloved son. So I think just Assorted Djinn would play the brothers. And I have to cast Arthur Underwood as Jacob, or maybe I don't. Maybe Mrs. Underwood can play Jacob, because, you know, her personality is a little bit more in line with his. And I want Kitty to be someone of significance, but there's really no one else. So I don't know. I kind of want her to be Benjamin. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Kitty would be Benjamin. The cast of the Young Elites series in Wicked. Fun fact, this was the first Broadway show that I ever saw. Actually, it's technically the only Broadway show I've seen in person. And no, I didn't go to New York. I went to New Orleans to see it. It still counts as Broadway if it's traveling Broadway. So, the Young Elites in Wicked, well, I think it is abundantly clear that Adelina Amateru has to play Elphaba. And Violetta would be Nessa Rose, but I actually think that Raphael would be Glinda. I can't remember anyone's name today. Galinda, with a ga. Anyway. And that brings us down to Fiyero. So in Wicked, Fiyero is actually a prince. So my instinct is to say that Enzo should play Fiyero. I can't remember the names for 2 seconds. Wow. Okay. Anyway, but I actually think that Maggiano has more of Fiyero's personality. We'll say that Enzo would be the understudy for Fiyero, because I think that's the best way to do it. Because Enzo's role in the story of the Young Elites is kind of similar to Fiyero's role in Wicked, but personality-wise, Maggiano matches Fiyero better. And Sergio is Bach. Moving on. You have to move on to Harry Potter in Fiddler on the Roof. So in my opinion, Fiddler on the Roof is the most underappreciated Broadway show because it has so much subtle humor and great songs and a great story that's actually really relevant today, but people are just like, no, I can't get into it. And I'm like, you have no appreciation for history. So, if you don't know about Fiddler on the Roof, it is a classic. And it is about a poor milkman, a poor Jewish milkman named Tevye, who lives in I think it's actually modern day Ukraine. But it's the story of him trying to get his three daughters married while the Russian Revolution is about to start and all of the Jews are being forced to leave. And yeah, it's great. It's very bittersweet, but there are some funny moments. I want Hermione, Ginny, and Luna to be Zeitel, Hodel, and Haba, respectively. I think that works. Okay, I'm actually going to say that Mr. Weasley is Tevye, and Molly Weasley is Golda, and I love that image. I think she would make an excellent Golda. And I completely forgot that, for a second, that Belka and Spriancy exist. How could I do that? I played Belka. Okay, so I really want Fred and George to be Belka and Spriancy. Like, they feel like they're too old, and obviously they're guys, but I like the idea of the mischievous siblings being the younger siblings. So yeah. I honestly think that Neville would be the best Mottle, and actually I'm really good with that decision. I think he is suited to Mottle to a T. I think that Harry could be Perchik. So in Fiddler on the Roof, there are pretty much the Jewish people and then the Russians. And so the Russians are kind of typically seen as the bad guys. that's, they're not really bad per se, not bad people, but they do kind of force the Jews to leave their home in Anatevka. And so I think that the Death Eaters would have to play the Russians just to kind of show off that dynamic. And that being said, I have no qualms about Draco Malfoy being Fiedka. I feel like I've spent a really long time on that one, so I'm going to move on. You have to move on. Sorry. I told you, you're gonna have to deal with some singing. Okay. Percy Jackson! I swear if I pick the Lightning Thief again, we gotta throw something. Annie! I would honestly be shocked if some people didn't know the premise of this play, because it's just such a classic. It's about a little orphan girl who is growing up during the Great Depression, 1930s. And she gets the opportunity to stay with a really wealthy man, because for his image he is adopting an orphan for a week. But Annie believes that her parents are still alive. I think that Percy has to be Annie. I'm not well versed in all of the other orphans, but Clarice would be Pepper, definitely. I'm trying to decide who would be Daddy Warbucks. I don't think that there's a really good character for Daddy Warbucks in Percy Jackson. I think the best person for it would probably be Mr. D, Dionysus. Because, you know, at the beginning of the play, Daddy Warbucks has that grouchy personality that Dionysus also has. The only difference is Dionysus doesn't really ever overcome that. He's, yeah, I like to believe that deep down he cares about the campers, but I don't know that he would actually bond with Percy the way that Daddy Warbucks bonds with Annie. Anyway, Chiron is definitely Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I think that Annabeth could also make a good Grace. She and Dionysus would be a weird dynamic because in the play, in the end, Daddy Warbucks and Grace have a little romantic ending. And that would be weird between Annabeth and Dionysus, but I think she has probably the best personality for Grace out of anyone else. I know that Luke would be Rooster. Because he wants to kill Percy. That's a whole thing. I'm just trying to think of all of the evil girls in Percy Jackson, because I feel like she should be played by a girl. Okay, so back to Mrs. Hannigan though. That I actually really want Cersei to be Mrs. Hannigan for one simple reason, and that's the fact that she's not a Mrs. Why did I say Mrs. Hannigan? Anyway, that's the fact that in the actual myth and in the story of Percy Jackson, Cersei hates boys and turns them into guinea pigs. So Miss Hannigan hates little girls and doesn't turn them into guinea pigs, but sings a song about how much she hates them. I think that would be really great for what's her face? Cersei. And honestly, I'm kind of gender bending it anyway with Percy playing Annie, so you know, she could sing a song about how much she hates little boys. The characters of The Lord of the Rings in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So if you haven't seen the Hunchback of Notre Dame play, highly recommend. It is my 9th favorite musical and it's fantastic. It is based on the novel by Victor Hugo, and it uses songs from the Disney movie, but it is not the same as the Disney movie. Actually, it's structured quite differently, and the characters are similar, but have slightly different personalities and roles. And it has a darker ending than can be expected with Disney. The Lord of the Rings and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Well, I think, although this isn't a character, it is obvious to me that Notre Dame has to be Isengard. Like, if you're gonna keep someone locked in a tower in Middle-earth, that's the place to do it. Smeagol, also known as Gollum, would probably be the best character for Quasimodo. Saruman would be a really good Frollo, but I'm trying to decide if there's a certain race of Middle-earth that should be the gypsies. I'm tempted to say the elves. Okay, my initial instinct was to have Arwen be Esmeralda. But I think it's kind of interesting. I think that the movie Arwen would match the play version of Esmeralda, which is actually quite different than the Disney movie version of Esmeralda. But since I'm talking about books, I like to stay true to the book versions. So I think in that case, Eowyn would be a better Esmeralda, but she would be a better fit for the Disney movie Esmeralda. That's a really interesting dynamic. I think Aragorn would be the best candidate for Phoebus. So that brings... Oh no, I did Quasimodo. Okay, so that brings us to Clopin, who is really the only other major character in The Hunchback of Notre Dame and my favorite in all versions. Okay, because of the role that Elrond has in The Lord of the Rings and the role that Clopin has in Hunchback of Notre Dame, not really their personalities, but their roles are similar, as in Clopin is the king of the gypsies and Elrond is the leader of the elves, and they both have like this secret hidden location where their people can live in peace. So I think Elrond would be Clopin. That would be a very interesting twist for Elrond because Clopin is a lot more energetic and flamboyant. But anyway, moving on. Ranger's Apprentice and The Lightning Thief the Musical. So this is basically casting characters from one book, in this case Ranger's Apprentice series, which is somewhere over here on my shelf, and in the Percy Jackson, the first book of Percy Jackson. Okay, quick overview. Percy Jackson finds out that he is a demigod, and that means he's the son of a god, a Greek god, and he goes to Camp Half-Blood and soon finds out that he has been accused of stealing Zeus's lightning bolt, and chaos ensues. And yes, the musical is fantastic. Okay, going to the casting. So, Will Treaty is definitely going to play Percy Jackson. Alice, I don't remember her last name, but Alice would be Annabeth. The interesting thing about this one is I have to consider, just with the Ranger's Apprentice series and how all the characters grow and change, at what point in the series I'm talking about these characters. So I think Horace from book 1 would be a really good fit for Clarice in book 1 of Percy Jackson. I think Gillen would be a good Grover. The only person I can think of to play Luke would be Karen, who is in the Siege of Mackinac. I think that's his name. Because he kind of betrays Will. He turns evil. And I'm really trying to decide who should be Chiron and who should be Dionysus. Okay, so my instinct, because of the mentor role, is for Halt. I swear, I can't remember people's names. Okay, my instinct is for Halt to play Chiron, but the way he's written in the play, I feel like it's almost better suited to Baron Erald, and then Dionysus matches Halt's attitude a little bit more. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I want Halt to be Chiron. I'd say those two are kind of interchangeable based on your personal preference. And now the end is near, and I face the final curtain. Okay, I promise I'm done singing. But yes, the end is actually here, and it is the final curtain, as they say on Broadway. I don't know if they actually say that, but yes, curtain call time. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my silliness. And if you want to see more videos like this one, just give this one a thumbs up and let me know in the comments which book you think is suited to which musical the best. And I do book reviews, I do fun games like this, and just a bunch of nerdy stuff. So thanks for watching.